James Harper was 42 years old, a man who made a living teaching people how to navigate conflict without losing their cool. A conflict resolution consultant based in Chicago, he'd spent the last 15 years working with corporations, schools, and even law enforcement, helping them defuse tense situations with logic and empathy. He was good at his job because he practiced what he preached, staying calm, listening carefully, and finding solutions that left everyone feeling heard. But even James, with all his training, wasn't prepared for the chaos that unfolded on United Flight 1423 to Denver. James had booked his window seat, 23A, weeks in advance. He wasn't a frequent flyer, but he valued the small comfort of a window to lean against during the 2.5-hour flight. He was headed to a conference in Denver, where he'd be speaking on de-escalation techniques for workplace disputes. His carry-on held his laptop, a few books, and a notepad filled with ideas for his presentation. When he boarded the plane, he settled into a seat, stowed his bag, and pulled out a book, ready for a quiet trip. The trouble started just before takeoff. Two sisters, Karen and Lisa Mitchell, boarded late, their voices carrying over the hum of the cabin as they complained about the gate agent's incompetence. Karen, in her late 40s, wore a bright red blazer and carried a designer handbag. Lisa, a few years younger, had a matching vibe, sunglasses perched on her head, a loud phone conversation about their ruined vacation plans. They were assigned seats 23B and 23C, the middle and aisle seats next to James, but it was clear from the moment they reached row 23 that they had other ideas. Karen stopped at the row, looking down at James. "Excuse me," she said, her tone sharp. "You're in our seat." James looked up from his book, confused but polite. "This is 23A, he said, holding up his boarding pass. "Window seat. My seat." Karen rolled her eyes, setting her bag on the empty middle seat. "We need the window," she said. "My sister gets claustrophobic. You can take the aisle." Lisa chimed in, still on her phone. "Yeah, just move. It's not a big deal." James took a slow breath, his training kicking in. He dealt with pushy people before, but this was bold. "I'm sorry, but I booked this seat specifically," he said, keeping his voice even. "I'm happy to help if your sister's feeling claustrophobic, but I'd like to stay here." Karen's face tightened. "You don't understand," she said, leaning closer. "She needs the window. It's a medical thing. You're being selfish." James glanced at Lisa, who was now off her phone and nodding vigorously. "It's true," she said. "I'll have a panic attack if I don't get the window. You don't want that, do you?" The passengers nearby were starting to notice. A woman in row 22 turned slightly, her ear tilted toward the conversation. The man in 23F, across the aisle, pretended to read his magazine but was clearly listening. James could feel the attention, but he stayed calm. "I understand that can be tough," he said to Lisa. "Have you spoken to the flight attendants? They might be able to find another window seat for you." Karen scoffed, loud enough for the rows around them to hear. "We shouldn't have to beg for a seat because you're too stubborn to move," she said. "Just give us the seat. It's not like you're using the window." James set his book down, his hands resting on his lap. He wasn't angry yet, but he wasn't about to be bullied either. "I booked this seat," he repeated, his tone still polite but firmer. "I'm not moving unless the airline asks me to. Let's get a flight attendant to sort this out." Lisa threw up her hands. "Unbelievable," she said. "You're making a scene over a seat. Typical." The irony wasn't lost on James. The sisters were the ones raising their voices, drawing stares from passengers settling in for the flight. A flight attendant, a young woman named Emily, noticed the commotion and approached. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her tone professional but weary. Karen jumped in before James could speak. "Yes, there's a problem," she said, pointing at James. "This guy won't give up his seat, and my sister needs it for medical reasons. He's being completely unreasonable." Emily looked at James, who handed her his boarding pass. "I'm in my assigned seat," he said. "They're asking me to move, but I'd prefer to stay. If there's another window seat available, maybe we can work something out." Emily checked her tablet, scrolling through the seating chart. "The flight's full," she said. "There aren't any other window seats available in economy." I'm sorry, but unless someone volunteers to switch, everyone needs to stay in their assigned seats. Karen's face went red. This is ridiculous, she snapped. We're not sitting in the middle an aisle. Do you know how much we paid for these tickets? You need to fix this. Emily held her ground. Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but the passenger in 23A has the right to a seat. Please take your assigned seats so we can prepare for takeoff. Lisa crossed her arms, glaring at James. You're really going to let me have a panic attack? That's on you. James didn't take the bait. He'd seen this tactic before, guilt-tripping to get what you want. I'm sorry you're feeling anxious, he said, his voice steady. Maybe we can ask for some extra water or a blanket to help you feel more comfortable. The sisters weren't having it. Karen leaned over the middle seat, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You're going to regret this, she said. We'll make sure everyone on this plane knows what a jerk you are. That's when James did something unexpected. Instead of responding to Karen, he stood up, stepped into the aisle, and addressed the entire cabin. His voice was clear, calm, and carried the authority of someone used to commanding attention. Excuse me, everyone, he said. I'd like to take a moment to address what's happening here, because it seems to be affecting more than just my row. The cabin went quiet. Passengers turned in their seats, curious. The man in 23F put down his magazine. The woman in row 22 stopped texting. Even the flight attendants paused, watching James with interest. My name is James Harper, he continued. I'm a conflict resolution consultant. I teach people how to handle disagreements without escalating them. Right now, I'm being asked to give up my assigned seat because these two passengers feel entitled to it. They've claimed a medical need, which I take seriously, but they've also threatened and insulted me when I politely declined. I'd like to propose a solution that works for everyone. Karen and Lisa froze, caught off guard. They hadn't expected him to take control of the situation, let alone address the entire plane. Emily, the flight attendant, stepped closer, ready to intervene if needed, but she let James continue. Here's what I'm offering, James said. I'll keep my seat, as it's my right. But I'm happy to work with the flight crew to help these passengers feel comfortable. If anyone else on this plane wants to volunteer their window seat, I'll personally cover the cost of a meal or drink for you as a thank you. If no one volunteers, I'll ask the flight attendants to provide extra support to these passengers during the flight. Does that sound fair? The cabin was silent for a moment, then a murmur of approval rippled through the rows. A man in row 15, who had a window seat, raised his hand. I'll switch, he said. No need for the meal, though. Just get these two to sit down so we can take off. A few passengers chuckled. Karen and Lisa looked mortified, their faces flushed as the attention turned to them. Emily stepped in, seizing the opportunity. Thank you, sir, she said to the man in row 15. Let's get this sorted. Ma'am, she addressed the sisters. Please gather your belongings and follow me to row 15. Karen tried to protest. This is still unacceptable, she said, but her voice lacked its earlier fire. Lisa grabbed her arm, whispering, just take it. Everyone's staring. The sisters reluctantly moved to row 15, their designer bags in tow. James sat back down, thanked Emily, and returned to his book as if nothing had happened. The cabin buzzed with whispers, passengers exchanging looks of amusement and admiration. The man in 23F leaned over. That was slick, he said. You shut them down without raising your voice. James smiled faintly. It's what I do, he said. The flight took off without further incident. Karen and Lisa stayed quiet in their new seats, avoiding eye contact with other passengers. Emily checked on them periodically, offering water and blankets, but they declined, clearly embarrassed. James, meanwhile, became a minor celebrity on the flight. A few passengers stopped by to thank him for handling the situation so gracefully. A woman in row 24, a teacher, asked for his business card, saying her school could use his training. When the plane landed in Denver, the story had already spread. Passengers shared videos of James's speech on social media, with captions like, Guy School's entitled Karens on flight, and Best in-flight drama ever. By the time James reached the conference, his colleagues had seen the clips and were buzzing about his masterclass in de-escalation. The airline sent James an email a week later, offering a voucher for his next flight as a thank you for his patience. They also confirmed that Karen and Lisa had been noted in their system for disruptive behavior, though no formal action was taken. James didn't care about the voucher or the sisters' fate. He'd done what he always did, turned conflict into a chance for clarity. For the passengers of Flight 1423, it was a story they'd tell for years. The day a quiet man in a window seat faced down two entitled sisters and left the plane cheering. For James, it was just another day of doing what he did best, keeping the peace one row at a time.